Hey, good morning. I'm just having a cup of tea and a bit of breakfast and a nicotine lozenge because my vape has run out. I want to talk to you this morning about two different interpretations of the word karma. A lot of people talk about bad people receiving bad karma and conversely good people receiving good karma. There's a massive disconnect and a contradiction between the original Sanskrit definition of the word karma, and what we Westerners appropriate and misuse it as. I've just asked AI and I'm going to bounce into that now. I asked Gemini, I've heard the word karma in its original Sanskrit definition doesn't have anything to do with moral retribution. Can you explain that the differentiation between the English use of the word karma and the original Sanskrit use of the word karma in layman's terms for me? It said the English understanding of karma is often simplified to what goes around comes around, implying a system of moral retribution where good actions are rewarded and bad actions are punished. Sometimes in this life, but often in a future one. This interpretation focuses heavily on the ethical consequences of actions. However, the original Sanskrit meaning of the word karma is much broader and more nuanced. In Sanskrit, karma literally translates to action, work, deed, or act. It encompasses all types of actions, physical, mental, and verbal, as well as the intent behind those actions. Here's the key differences in layman's terms. The original Sanskrit meaning is a focus on action. So karma is fundamentally about doing. It's the energy and the consequent inherent in any actions that we take. Cause and effect, it emphasizes the principle of cause and effect. Every action creates a corresponding effect or consequence. However, this effect isn't necessarily a direct reward or a punishment in a moral sense. Potential and residue. Actions create impressions or residues, sometimes called samskaras, in our consciousness. These residues have the potential to shape our future experiences and our tendencies. Neutrality. In its original sense, karma itself is a neutral principle, like the law of gravity. It's simply the mechanism by which actions have consequences. Then you sort of look at the obverse English understanding. It says, focus on the moral outcome. So the English usage often emphasizes the moral judgment associated with karma. Good actions are expected to lead to good outcomes and bad actions to bad outcomes. Retribution and reward. There's a strong connotation of divine or cosmic justice, where karma acts as a system of rewards and punishments for ethical behavior. Simplified, cause and effect. The cause and effect are often seen in a more direct and immediate moral sense. Less emphasis on the intent. While intent is important in the original concept, the English understanding sometimes oversimplifies it to the outcome of the action. Analogy, imagine throwing a ball. In Sanskrit karma, the act of throwing a ball, the karma, has a consequence. The ball travels a certain distance and lands with a certain impact. The force you put into your throw, your intent and your action determines the trajectory and the impact. Or English karma, if you throw a ball to help somebody, good karma might mean something good will happen to you later. If you throw a ball to hurt someone, bad karma might mean that something bad will happen to you. In essence, the original Sanskrit understanding of karma is a fundamental principle of cause and effect related to all actions and their energetic imprints, while the English understanding has evolved to become more specifically associated with moral consequences and a system of cosmic justice. While the English version captures a part of the broader concept that our actions do have consequences, it often misses the deeper understanding of action, intent, and the subtle ways our actions shape our reality beyond simple reward and punishment. So yeah, I just think that it's important to think about the intent behind our actions. If you intend to harm somebody or to hurt somebody or to humiliate somebody or to deride or demean or denigrate them in any way, shape or form, then it's the intent of that karmic action, the will behind it, the direct destructive force which will express its own karma metaphysically and manifest into a physicality. And that cause and effect, the causality doesn't equal correlation, but causality of an intention or an action is by far the governing force in the original Sanskrit definition of karma. However, what we think is that, a lot of people in the Western society challenge the concept of karma. They believe in it wrongly and then they disbelieve in it wrongly to disbelieve the disbelief or the misbelief. So they think, well, if karma's real, why is it this evil guy is living in an ivory tower in some, in a palace, nothing to do with the royals, but in in an ivory tower, let's say, and he's having a great life, and why is it that there's this poor, honest, hard-working, gentle person who's suffering immeasurably, and how can karma be real if this is a thing? But that's not that it's not real, because that was never what karma meant. Karma isn't about throwing that ball and, you know, getting something good happening to you if the good intent was behind it, and something bad happening to you if the bad intent was behind it. Everything does happen, not as Einstein says. I would disagree with the concept that everything has an equal and opposite reaction, because that's not true. But cause and effect, causality, and the karma behind the intention. If you intended to do good and bad came of it, or if you intended to do bad and perhaps obversely good came of it, then that is the karmic action in effect. But moral retribution has nothing to do with the original, the true interpretation of karma. So whether you're going to be good or bad today, and whether, you know, as some people say, be good, and if you can't be good, be careful. And you know, I think that there's often, I think if you took 100 or 1,000 people per capita and find, you know, all the religious scriptures and doctrines all say, don't hurt, don't kill, be nice, everything will be all right in the end, you'll be living in heaven. And whilst there might be exceptions to that rule, you might see people, well, this guy's a fucking arsehole, he goes around killing and raping and murdering, you know, and pillaging, and he's driving a fat car, and he's got a lovely house, and he's, you know, faced no negative consequences, so this can't be real. But if you take 1,000 people who, generally speaking, live their life by the principles of doctrine of, you know, morality and ethical, fundamentally based kind of ethical decisions, you'll find that most of those people will be living in a type of heaven within that kind of metaphysical manifestation of vernacular. You'll find that most people who follow those rules are living in heaven. And conversely, if you find people who do bad things, some of them will be living the high life, and you say to yourself, well, look, this can't be real. There's no truth in the religious scriptures, or, you know, any philosophical schools of thought that say that you should be nice to people, and that you shouldn't do wrong, you shouldn't harm, you shouldn't enslave or hurt, or anything like that. Yeah, I've already paid my council tax, and now my alarm on my Alexa's going off. It's 9. Wait there. Sorry. My Alexa goes off at 9 a.m. every morning to remind me that it's 9 a.m. and that I should be awake. I've got a new ring light. I don't know if anyone can see that. Yeah, it's much better than the other one that doesn't break. And I'm going to go for a cigarette now. But yeah, think about your karma. Think about the consequential cause and effect narrative of your actions, and don't try and believe that some beneficent, omniscient, all-seeing, all-powerful God is going to give you the moral righteousness and justification and, you know, equanimitable balance of morality in the actions that you do. Because as an atheist or an agnostic, I know that that's simply not true. But I do know that actions do have consequences, and the intent, the purport. It's a bit like people who use racist language. My mum and dad used to say they used to buy chickpea flour from the chuts down the road, and they didn't mean that in an offensive way at all. That's how, when they were poor and they bought their first house in the 70s, they used to make chapatis from chapati flour, and that's how they used to get by. And they never meant for a nanosecond to be racist, you know, or prejudiced against these people, but they use this affectionate term, and it's the intent behind the word and the intent behind your actions which are going to govern their true karma, not your retribution that you'll receive in return, but the karma in the expression of those actions and the way that they take effect and harmonise themselves into the dancing mire of all creation, illusion, and the great spectacle of life.